What is up, guys? It's your boy Solheim here, back with another Wrath of the Lich King video. So today we are checking out what I personally think is the best gold farm in Wrath of the Lich King, and I know when I say that, some of you will already dispute it, but I'll get more into exactly why later in this video. This will also be my first actual gold farming video for Wrath of the Lich King, where I show you guys a concrete example of where to farm gold, and I know that for Wrath Classic this is already incredibly early, and there's a reason why I'm not focusing on gold farms right now for content, as Wrath Classic is not launching for several months, most likely October or November, but there is a fresh Wrath server launching very soon on Warmain, so I'm making this video so those of you planning to play on that server can test it out for yourself prior to Wrath Classic. And then again, if you're watching this video later down the line, it will also be relevant for Wrath Classic. Now, before we get into today's video, a quick word from today's sponsor, myself. I've made and published my own goldmaking guide for Wrath of the Lich King Classic, which is already more than 85 pages long, containing all of the goldmaking information that I have for Wrath. It includes my personal favorite gold farms, eternal farms, which professions you should have for making gold, which items you should focus on farming in phase 1 for massive gold per hour, and the best of all, investments. Some of these investments have massive potential, and you can literally multiply your gold with investments. The link to the guide is down below in the video description and the pinned comment, and by using the code Solheim you can get it for 50% off. So let's talk gold farming. The farm we are talking about today takes place in the Oculus, and there's only really one requirement for this farm. You need to have skinning. You are basically farming the dragonkins on the first platform inside the Oculus, then resetting the dungeon. As for gear requirements, there isn't really any, but you need to be strong enough to kill the mobs before they kill you. The actual gear requirement in order to do that will vary from class to class, and in the footage used in this video, I am using literally the best gear available from Icecrown Citadel, so this is what this farm would look like at the end of Wrath, when you are best in slot geared. Some classes will be able to farm this quite effectively in phase 1 of Wrath Classic, while others will struggle a little bit. It all depends on your damage output and your survival. In order to do this effectively, you want to have either high AoE damage output, or a mix of single target and AoE together. The reason for this is that the packs that you are pulling will consist of roughly 5 to 8 mobs per pull. Many of them will be small non-elite dragons, but some of them will also be elite dragons. When it comes to the elite dragons, this is where the single target damage or crowd control comes into play, as the elite dragon casters will channel a spell on you, which gives you a debuff reducing your damage output by 4%, stacking up to 20 times for a total damage reduction of 80%. So for example, in the footage I'm using right here, being a paladin, you're kinda limited to your crowd control ability. You have 1 stun, and being a blood elf I can also have 1 area of effect silence, plus that Adventure's shield ability, which can also be really helpful. That being said though, you can see just how slow I'm able to kill off this pack because of that damage reduction, so you might want to be mindful of how many of these casters you pull per pull, so you're able to control them so they don't stack up that damage reduction debuff too high. In the footage used right here, I am farming as a protection paladin, and I will also show you what this farm would look like on a retribution paladin, which is significantly better, but the main difference is that a protection paladin runs will be slower but a lot more safe, as you have insane survivability, while as retribution paladins the runs will be a lot faster, but if you don't have the gear that I have, it could also be more risky. There's pros and cons to both specs here, but the main pro for retribution is being able to nuke down the casters before they channel that damage reduction spell. So let's get into the meat and bones of this farm. I told you that you need to have skinning, so what we are looking for here is skinning materials, mainly Arctic fur, but also icy dragon scales and Borean leather, and we can turn those Borean leather into Arctic fur. You can turn 6 Borean leathers into 1 heavy Borean leather, and 10 heavy Borean leather can be turned in for an Arctic fur, so basically 60 Borean leather equals 1 Arctic fur. The farm itself can take place, or it can take anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes, once again depending on your class and gear. But once you are in Icecrown Citadel gear and you're using a decent DPS spec, you should be doing this in under 5 minutes per run. As we are doing a dungeon, we are also limited to 5 dungeon runs per hour, so if you spend 3 minutes per run, that means you are locked out after 15 minutes, while if you spend 5 minutes per run, you will be locked out after 25 minutes. This means that you can't use this to farm alone, you need to combine it with something else, or you can also use it for a quick 15 to 25 minute farming session if you have a very busy day and you just want to farm some quick gold. But personally, I like to have 2 characters doing this, so I can do 5 runs on one character, then log on to the next character and do 5 more runs, or I like to use this while also farming herbalism and mining, which is done by once again having 2 characters, one with skinning specifically for this farm, and another character with herbalism and mining to farm in the open world. Farm herbalism and mining until your lockouts are reset, then log over and farm the Oculus, and once you are locked out, log back over to your herbalist and mining character. As for the actual loot, this is what it looks like after 5 resets, and on my Retribution Paladin I was doing this at roughly 3.5 minutes per reset, meaning 5 resets was done in about 20 minutes, so we can take this result and multiply it by 3 to find the technical gold per hour. So after 5 resets we ended up with 1 Arctic Fur, 61 Icy Dragon Scales, and 173 Borean Leather. If we convert all of those Borean Leather into Arctic Fur, that gives us 2 additional Arctic Fur, plus an additional 53 Borean Leather, only 7 away from our 3rd Arctic Fur, giving us almost 4 Arctic Furs in 20 minutes, plus 61 Dragon Scales. If we were to simply vendor those Icy Dragon Scales for 1 gold each, that is 61 gold, but if we sell them on the auction house for let's say 3 gold each, which I think is reasonable at least for Wrath Classic where people already have multiple gold caps, that is an additional 180 gold only from Icy Dragon Scales in 20 minutes, plus once again 3 to 4 Arctic Furs. This gold farm is not really a secret gold farm by any means, it was even farmed back in OG Wrath of the Lich King, and it's been farmed on every single Wrath server since that as well, and it was re-popularized on Warmane when Gnev made a video about it which skyrocketed to the moon. And the last thing that I want to talk about today is why I think this is, or at least could be, the best gold farm in Wrath of the Lich King. I already showed the gold potential based on my results, almost 4 Arctic Fur, plus up to 180 gold extra in roughly 20 minutes if you are incredibly good gear. Let's say 30 minutes just to give some wiggle room, that is 7 to 8 Arctic Furs per hour, plus up to 350 additional gold. If Arctic Furs sells for close to 100 gold each, which is the price we have seen on many Wrath servers so far, that is over 1000 gold per hour, and it's an instanced gold farm, which means you don't have to compete with anyone for mob tags like you would in the open world, and it's also a farm that is relevant in literally every single phase of Wrath Classic, as Arctic Fur and leathers in general will always be in demand. Also, the competitive aspect should not be underestimated. The launch of Wrath Classic is going to be huge, and the competition for farms in the open world will be absolutely massive, so having a locked off dungeon farm where nobody is competing with you is really valuable in my opinion. Now, one more thing. So far I've only showed myself do this with a maxed out Retribution Paladin in full Icecrown Citadel gear, plus literal Shadowmourne, and also a maxed out Protection Paladin because I wanted to flex my gear, but I also thought that for Warmane Fresh and Wrath Classic, using tier 7 gear would be more realistic to farming this in phase 1, so here's a sped up recording of me doing this on a Paladin with a tier 7 gear from Noxramus, showing you that this is almost just as easy with tier 7 gear. The only difference is that you deal a little bit less damage and you take a little bit more damage, but it's still definitely doable and almost just as efficient. The comparison between tier 7 gear and full best in slot endgame gear is that my Paladin with both Shadowmourne and Deathbringer's Will was able to do this in 3.5 minutes, while my tier 7 paladin was able to do this in 5 minutes, so it's a 1.5 minute difference. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Hopefully you found this video helpful and informational, and hopefully it helps you make a bunch of gold in Wrath of the Lich King. For even more gold farms, check out my gold guide, and if you've watched this video until the end, consider giving it a thumbs up, and click that subscribe button for even more content. It is absolutely free, and you can always change your mind later, and who knows, you might find even more useful Wrath videos coming out as soon, or later down the line. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.